My mom said she was a conqueror, and if she couldn't make my dad fall in love with her, the system would erase her. The kind of erasure where the soul is completely destroyed. I secretly told my dad, but he just said, then let her die. Mom also heard those words. She didn't cry, she just held me gently. Later, Mom really did die, but my cold and indifferent dad went insane. Chapter 1. Mom had been asleep for a very long time. It was already time to take me to kindergarten, but she still hadn't woken up. I touched her body, it was cold and stiff, no longer warm and soft like usual. Mom, I'm hungry. I shook her hard, but she still didn't open her eyes. She hadn't been like this before. Back then, even if I whimpered just a little, she would wake up immediately, scoop me into her arms, and comfort me softly. But now she was sleeping so deeply. I pulled the blanket over her, then climbed off the bed to grab the phone and call Dad. Dad hadn't been home for several days. Auntie Lynn from next door said that his first love had gotten divorced last month and returned, so he didn't want me and Mom anymore. Auntie Lynn also said that Mom looked very much like his first love, and that Dad must have only married Mom because she reminded him of her. I didn't know what first love meant, so I went to ask Mom. She was quiet for a long time before saying, "It means whatever was never obtained. Whatever belongs to the past." I didn't understand, but I started to dislike Dad, because Dad wanted to leave Mom. Chapter 2. In order to keep me from using the phone, Mom had set a password so I couldn't call Dad. I picked up the phone and held it to her face, but unlike usual, it didn't unlock automatically. I spoke to it, "Phone, I won't secretly watch cartoons anymore. Please unlock. I need to call Dad." But the phone ignored me. I went to knock on Auntie Lynn's door, but no one was home, so I climbed back into bed and lay beside Mom, watching her. Mom was very beautiful, even when asleep, more beautiful than the fairies on TV. Dad used to often watch her while she slept too. Then he would carry her away from my side into their room. He bit her like a little dog. Mom was most afraid of dogs, but she didn't push Dad away. The next morning, Mom would always wake up late, rushing around to make breakfast for me and Dad. Adults always say children don't remember things, but I remember everything. I remember that no matter how rushed she was then, Mom's eyes were always filled with smiles. But Dad never smiled. He would just sit there looking at his phone. And after breakfast he'd leave for work, dropping me off at kindergarten on the way. The kindergarten teachers all liked it when Dad dropped me off. I overheard them say that my dad was the best looking among all the fathers, tall, handsome, rich, like a movie star. They also said he was cold and distant, never caring much about people, and that if he could just be a little gentler, he would be perfect. I thought they were wrong. Obviously, Dorian's dad was the best looking. Every time Dorian's dad dropped him off, he'd carry him on his shoulders, so cool. But my dad only yanked me out of the car and made me walk into kindergarten by myself. Chapter 3. I took out the photo in Mom's hand, the one we had taken a few days ago at the art gallery. Dad hadn't wanted to go with us at first, but Mom held on to him. "Just take one more photo with us. When Luna grows up, she can look at it, otherwise. How pitiful would it be?" I saw tears in Mom's eyes, but she held them back and didn't cry. Dad finally agreed. In the photo, Mom was holding me in my princess dress, gently leaning against Dad's shoulder. Dad didn't push her away. He quietly let her lean on him. Among the three of us, only I was smiling the happiest. Last night before bed, Mom held me while we looked at the photo together. She kissed my cheek and said, "If only I were a little more useful. Luna, you must grow up bravely, and never be afraid." I rolled around happily in her arms. "Okay, I'll grow up brave." She smiled too, but her face was streaked with tears. Lately she cried a lot, even more than me. Later she coaxed me to sleep, half asleep. I heard her pleading with someone, "It's not time yet. Why did you come? Let me make a call. Arrange things for my daughter, she's only 3. I'm begging you." I didn't know who she was talking to. There were only the two of us at home, but I was too sleepy. My eyelids couldn't stay open. When I woke up, Mom was lying next to me. Her blanket had slipped off, and that's why her body was so cold. I wrapped my little hand around hers, hoping she would warm up, but she didn't. Chapter 4. After a long while, Mom's phone rang. I went to pick it up, but the ringing stopped. The phone had run out of power. I plugged it in to charge, but the call didn't come again. I was hungry. I dragged a small stool to open the fridge, but I could only reach a bag of bread. I also wanted the milk inside, but the stool tipped over and I fell hard. Mom, it hurts. I cried as I went to find her, but Mom still didn't wake up. She was always the most afraid of me getting hurt. I cried until I was exhausted, then fell asleep beside her. In my dream, I heard Dad's voice. No, not a dream, Dad had really come back. I opened my eyes and heard the sound of a code being entered. The door opened, but Dad didn't come in. Only his voice came through. Luna's kindergarten called to say she didn't show up. I came back to check. Don't worry, it's normal after surgery. You go ask the doctor first. I'll come find you both right away. He was on the phone, and his tone was so gentle. He had never spoken like that to me or Mom. To us, he was always flat, sometimes even cold. Daddy. I climbed off the bed and ran out. When he saw me, he frowned. Why aren't you wearing any clothes? Where's Mom? I stopped, too scared to go closer, and whispered from the bedroom door, Mom's asleep in bed. He didn't go look at her. He only spoke coldly toward the bedroom. Selena, I'll give you 3 more days to think it over. You can have the house and the car. Signing the divorce papers sooner is better for both of us. Something fell inside the bedroom. I thought Mom had woken up, so I ran to look, but it was just the phone falling to the ground while charging. I went out to call Dad again, but he had already taken the elevator down. I stood on tiptoe, wanting to press the elevator and chase after him, to tell him that no matter what I did, Mom wouldn't wake up. But Mom once told me, children must never, ever ride the elevator alone. One time, I had played around and taken it down to the basement garage. Mom had searched for me for so long, so anxious she cried. So I went back to lie beside Mom again. I didn't want her to cry. When she cried, she was so sad. She even tried to hide it from me, but I loved it when she smiled. Chapter 5. The bread was already gone, so I could only drink water. Even after drinking, I was still hungry, and Mom still hadn't woken up. I thought Mom must be sick. When I got sick, I always slept a lot too, but Mom would feed me medicine and I'd get better. So I went to find the medicine I usually took when I was ill, and tried to feed it to Mom. She wouldn't open her mouth, and I had a hard time forcing it in. Then I got sleepy again, and fell asleep next to her. When I woke up, kindergarten had already ended. I squatted on the balcony and looked down. Dorian was being carried on his dad's shoulders, and his dad was holding the hand of his chubby mom with the other hand. Dorian said his mom wasn't fat, she was pregnant. He would soon have a little brother or little sister. I wanted a little brother or sister too. Then we could play with toys together and go to kindergarten together. When Auntie Lynn came over to visit, she also said to Mom, Luna is already 3. You and Domi could have another child. He's the only son in his family, and with his good status, others will be eyeing him. Having another baby is safer. Mom said, feelings tied down by children aren't secure. Besides, he's been busy with work lately. Auntie Lynn laughed. Busy? I saw you two in the car in the underground garage just last month. Sis. Mom's face turned red all at once, and she quickly covered my ears. Luna is right here. Auntie Lynn said, it's fine. Kids don't understand anyway. And it was true, I didn't understand. After Auntie Lynn left, I kept asking Mom what she and Dad were doing in the car. Was it sneaking delicious food without me? But Mom only asked me, Luna, do you want a little brother or sister? I nodded hard. Yes. Mommy, have one quickly. I want it tomorrow. Mom stroked my face. That's good too. With a brother or sister, Luna will never be all alone. Mom once told me she had been an orphan since she was little, and was very afraid of being lonely. She also told me that in her own world, she had fallen gravely ill, almost to the point of dying. It was a godlike thing called the system that sent her here. As long as she could make Dad fall in love with her, she would be able to stay here healthy and accompany me and Dad forever. Then does Dad love you? I asked. Mom didn't answer. It seemed like she didn't know either. Chapter 6. That night, Mom made a delicious dinner, then put me to sleep before Dad came back. But when Dad returned, I immediately woke up. I wanted to tell him that he absolutely had to love Mom, so we could always be together. I opened the door and saw Mom, dressed in a red dress, pouring wine for Dad. My mom was so beautiful, but Dad pushed her away. What? Trying the same old trick again? He was angry. Mom froze, and I felt a little scared too. Flustered, she put down the wine bottle. I don't know what you're talking about, Dad sneered. 5 years ago, when you showed up at that bar, was that really just a coincidence? You only knew what I needed most back then, and deliberately approached me. Mom didn't say anything, only lowered her eyes, like she had done something wrong. Dad stood up. I hate being deceived and used the most. Tomorrow, let's get a divorce. You can have the house and the car here. And you can have Luna too. I'll give you another sum of money, enough for you both to live without worry for the rest of your lives. I knew what divorce was. In our class, Sue Muhan's parents were divorced. She lived with her dad, and she said no matter how much she missed her mom, it was hard to see her. Mom's tears fell like strings of pearls scattering. Dad didn't comfort her. What are you crying for? Didn't you go through so much trouble to marry me just for these things? Mom shook her head. No. I didn't want those things. Even if you didn't have them, I still liked being with you. But Dad didn't believe her. He left, leaving Mom standing there all alone for a long, long time. She muttered to herself, "Did you forget? Back then it was you who held me, begging me not to go. You said you liked me very, very much. That was the first time anyone had ever liked me." Chapter 7. Mom, I love you too. I love you very, very much, I said to her. Mom kept her eyes closed and didn't respond. I kissed her cheek. Mom loved it when I kissed her. She always said I was her little angel, her treasure more precious than her own life. Then I smelled something strange on her body. I didn't like that smell. My mom was always clean, fragrant, soft. She had never smelled like this before. I went to the bathroom and got the shower gel she usually used, rubbing it on her body. But it only smelled good for a little while. And then that strange odor came back. Mom, wake up. I couldn't hold back and started to cry. The more I cried, the sadder I felt. Outside, thunder rumbled and rain began to fall. I was terrified of thunder. I hid under the blanket, too scared to come out. But Mom had told me to grow up bravely, not to be afraid. So I crawled back out from under the blanket and tried to call Dad again. I wanted to tell him that even after taking medicine, Mom still hadn't woken up, and that she was very, very sick. But the phone screen was dark. I couldn't find the place to make a call. I was sure I had left it charging. Why was it still black? I thought Dad would call. He must have heard the thunder too. Back then, whenever there was thunder, he would come into my room and stay with Mom and me. He said I was too timid, like a little mouse. Angrily, I told him, "I'm not a little mouse. I'm not." "Then what are you?" he asked. I stood with my hands on my hips and declared proudly, "I'm your little baby." That time, he laughed, and Mom laughed too. I admit, at that moment, he did look more handsome than Dorian's dad. But he didn't laugh often, so he wasn't handsome very often. I waited and waited. The thunder stopped, the rain stopped, but Dad never called. Chapter 8. The next morning when I woke up, I fed Mom more medicine. Then the doorbell rang. Finally, someone had come. Was it Dad coming back? Probably not. Dad always came in by punching in the code. He never rang the doorbell. Maybe it was a bad person. Mom had told me that children must never open the door for strangers. It was very dangerous. "Who is it?" I asked from behind the door. "Luna." "It's me, Auntie Moo." I quickly pushed against the door in fear. "You can't come in. Go away." Auntie Moo was worse than a bad person, even though she looked a little like Mom. The last time she came, she made Mom cry for a very long time. That was the morning after Dad left. Someone had rung the doorbell. Mom opened it, and that Auntie Moo was standing outside. She said her name was Mary. She looked Mom up and down and smiled. "You really do look a bit like me." Mom's face turned very unpleasant. I had never seen her like that before. But to me, they didn't really look alike at all. My mom's eyes were softer and more beautiful. Even Dorian admitted my mom was prettier than his mom. Anyway, no matter how much someone looked like her, I could always recognize my mom at a glance. Chapter 9. That day, Auntie Moo came into our home. She looked around everywhere before sitting down on the sofa. Mom told me to go play in my room, but I didn't want to. I wanted to stay with her. Auntie Moo said, if it were my son Mario being this disobedient, I would have already laid hands on him. Mom held me in her arms. It's just a child acting a little spoiled. How is that disobedient? My child can be disciplined, but no one is allowed to hit her. Auntie Moo smirked. If you don't discipline her, once she grows up society will do it for you. Mom replied, what happens in the future is none of your concern. Mom's voice was always soft and gentle, but this was the first time I had ever heard her speak with anger. Auntie Moo shot back, how can it not concern me? Dominic already asked you for a divorce, didn't he? Whatever money he gives you will also be half mine. Mom sipped her tea, and don't forget, every cent he has now is half mine as well. Auntie Moo stormed out, furious. Before leaving, she said, you're nothing but an imposter who took over my place because of my face. Mom looked at her. If you hadn't abandoned him during his hardest times to marry someone else, I wouldn't have had the chance to take over your place. In that moment, Mom was like a warrior from a cartoon. But after Auntie Moo left, Mom cried in the bathroom. I overheard her speaking to someone. She said that if Dad still didn't love her, she would be erased. Her soul would be destroyed, and she would never see me again. She said she shouldn't have been greedy, that she shouldn't have wanted both love and a child clinging to her knees. She shouldn't have given birth to me, only for me to suffer. Chapter 10. I called Dad and told him what Mom had said, that she might die. Dad asked me, is Mom with you? Did she teach you to say this? I told him Mom wasn't with me, it was me who wanted to tell him. But he got angry, then let her die. Daddy, you are a big meanie, I cried, even though I didn't really know what death was. I felt unbearably sad. After I hung up, I turned around and saw Mom standing at the door. She came over and gently hugged me, patting my back to soothe me. She told me she would always be with me, even if she became a gust of wind, a drop of rain. She would stay with me forever and ever. Chapter 11. That night, Dad came home. He scolded Mom for teaching me to say things a child shouldn't. Mom listened quietly without explaining. When he finished, she smiled and asked him, you must like me too, right? If you didn't, how could you share a bed with me for so long? Even if I look like her, after all this time, you should be able to tell the difference. Dominic, can't you like me, even just a little? Just a little is enough. Though she smiled as she spoke, tears streamed endlessly from her eyes. Dad said, don't think I don't know you drugged my wine just to get pregnant with Luna. You think using a child could control me? You're wrong. To me, you were nothing more than a physical need. After he said that, Mom stopped smiling. She stopped crying too. She just stared at Dad without moving, like one of those pretty porcelain dolls in my toy box. Finally, she told him, word by word, I will never divorce you, not even if I die. Chapter 12. Auntie Moo kept knocking on the door outside. Luna, open up. Auntie brought you something tasty, and your brother Mario is here too. I also heard a little boy throwing a tantrum, saying he didn't like it here and wanted to go back to play games. I won't open the door for you. Go away, I shouted loudly, even though I was very hungry, even though I really wanted something to eat. Auntie Moo stopped talking to me and called Mom's name instead. Selena, come out. Let's talk again. You don't have to hide like this. You'll have to see me sooner or later anyway. What's the point? Clinging to someone who doesn't love you? After a long while, she finally left. I quietly opened the door. There was nothing outside. Sigh. If only she had left the food behind. My stomach hurt from hunger, so I dug in the trash can and found an egg I had dropped on the floor before. Mom had said I mustn't eat food that fell on the floor, or I would get sick. But I was too hungry. I couldn't resist. I carefully peeled away the dirty parts and ate one bite. Then remembered Mom hadn't eaten yet either. Mom always said that when you're sick, you must eat something, because eating helps you get better. I held the egg in my hands and went to her side. Mom, eat this. If you eat, you'll get better. She didn't eat. So I broke the egg into little pieces and fed them into her mouth like medicine. Then I lay down beside her. Tomorrow, she would be better, right? Chapter 13. I woke up again. It was still bright, it wasn't tomorrow yet. The smell from Mom's body was even stronger. I stood on a stool and opened the window to let in air. That was what Mom always did. Hey, little kid. That's dangerous. Get down. A man from across the way shouted at me. Isn't there an adult in your house? Your child is climbing the window. I told him, Uncle, I'm not climbing the window. I'm opening it. But it seemed he didn't hear me. He just kept telling me to get down. So I got down. And finally he stopped shouting. The wind blew in, lifting Mom's soft hair. The bad smell lessened a little. The photo was blown off the table by the wind too. I picked it up and looked at us in the picture. After that night when Mom said she'd never divorce. Not even if she died. Dad never came home again. But Mom took me to his office. She said we needed to leave behind some photos. She dressed up beautifully and also put me in a pretty princess dress. Dad, with a cold face, said he had a meeting in the afternoon, told Mom to take me home, and not to come to his office again. But Mom wasn't angry. She spoke gently to him. This is the last time. After this, I'll never come again. Just one more photo, so Luna can see it when she grows up. Otherwise. How pitiful would that be? Dad finally agreed to come with us. When the photo was being taken, the photographer kept asking Dad and Mom to get closer, to smile more. But in the end, I was the only one smiling. Afterward, Mom asked the photographer to rush the order as fast as possible. Then she told Dad, Luna wants to eat McDonald's. Let's go together just once. Dad frowned. Don't give her junk food. Mom smiled. Just this once. After this, no more. Then she pulled at Dad's hand. Really? I'm not lying. I kissed Dad's face too. Daddy, I want to eat it. Reluctantly, Dad went with us. Mom ordered lots of delicious food, even letting me have ice cream, which was usually forbidden. I was so happy. There were many children at McDonald's, all with their moms and dads, but I felt I was the happiest one of all. I had cream all over my mouth, and Dad wiped it away with a tissue, while Mom stood by taking pictures of us. Dad asked what was worth photographing, and Mom said, because it's fun. In the end, she even asked someone else to take a picture of the three of us together. That day, we took more photos than we would for the rest of our lives. Chapter 14. At sunset, we also went for a walk in the park. Mom bought me a bunny balloon. I sat on Dad's shoulders, pulling the balloon and singing loudly. People around us said we were a happy family. Mom also held onto Dad's arm. Dad said, "Don't think this will make me change my mind." Mom replied to him in the glow of the evening sky, "I know. There won't be a next time." That day's sunset fell on the river. So beautiful. Mom told me it was called half the river shimmering green, half the river red, the most beautiful scenery in the world. If I had known that was the last time I would see the scenery with Mom and Dad, I wouldn't have dozed off. I would have looked properly, and kept it deep in my heart. But in the end, my happiness sank together with the sunset into that shimmering river. Chapter 15. After Dad dropped us back home, he was about to return to the office. Mom said to him, "Today is the happiest day of my life." Then she tiptoed up and kissed him. "Dominic. Thank you." Dad lowered his gaze at her, his long lashes trembling slightly. His lips moved, as if he wanted to say something to her. Mom looked at him too, waiting for his words. But in the end, she spoke first. "Still, I won't divorce you. Not even if I die." She said it with a smile. After saying it, she closed the door, leaving Dad outside. Dad was angry out there. Mom, inside, smiled while shedding tears. That was the last time they quarreled. The last time. The last goodbye. Chapter 16. I put the photo back into Mom's hand and chattered on. "Mom, the more I look, the more I think we all look so good. Mom, let's take another set on my next birthday. If we go every year, then I can watch myself grow up little by little, right?" I thought so. I could also watch Mom grow up too. The wind was strong, so I pulled the blanket up to cover Mom. Her hair was messy too. I found her favorite pearl hairpin and clipped her hair in place. There, now Mom was beautiful again, Someone knocked on the door. Is anyone home? We're from property management. So it was the property management uncle and auntie. I opened the door. The same uncle who told me not to climb the window was there too. When he saw me, he immediately said, "This is the child who was climbing the window earlier." Luckily nothing happened. The auntie from property smiled kindly at me. "Little one, where are your mom and dad?" I replied, "Dad is at the office. Mom is sick and sleeping. Can we come in and take a look?" I nodded. "Okay." I led the auntie into the bedroom. She walked to Mom's side and tried to talk to her. But the next second, she screamed and jumped back. The uncles rushed in too. They gathered around Mom, checked her, and someone started making calls. Not long after, the police came. Doctors came too. And finally, Dad came back as well. Chapter 17. Mom died. I learned it when I overheard the uncles and aunties talking. I didn't know what died meant. I asked them, but they only shook their heads. Some even cried. So I went to ask Dad. He was standing beside Mom, staring at her without moving. The police said to him, the time of death was around 10 p.m. the night before last. Homicide has been preliminarily ruled out. The specific cause of death will depend on the autopsy report. Dad said, but yesterday morning when I came back, she was fine. I told Dad, "Daddy, when you came back yesterday, Mom was already sick. I called her for so long, but she didn't wake up." Everyone looked at me. Dad looked at me too. "What did you say?" "Yesterday you came back. I wanted to tell you Mom was sick, but you left, and I couldn't catch up with you. I fed Mom medicine, but she just kept sleeping. Daddy, when will Mom wake up?" Dad didn't answer me. His body swayed. And then he bent down toward Mom. "You were always fine. You never got sick. You're sick now. Let's go see a doctor." He suddenly picked her up and carried her out. Chapter 18. Before, whenever he carried Mom, she always wrapped her arms around his neck and looked at him gently. But now, her hands hung limp, her eyes closed, and that gentleness was gone. The uncles grabbed Dad, telling him to put her down. "Mr. Dominic, the dead cannot come back. Please restrain your grief. You still have a daughter. Don't frighten her." Dad didn't speak. He was so strong that even the uncles couldn't pull him back. I began to cry, and the uncles told an auntie to take me away first. Downstairs, there were many people gathered. I heard them say, "That child's mother was such a good person. How could she suddenly? Maybe it was a stroke or heart attack. These illnesses are happening younger these days." I heard the mother passed away the night before last, and the child stayed with the body the whole time. When property staff went in, the child was so hungry she was eating from the trash. My God, that's so pitiful. I can't bear to hear it. But I didn't feel pitiful because I had been with Mom the whole time. Later, the uncles came down, but Dad wasn't with them. They were pushing a cart, covered with a white sheet. I couldn't see the person underneath, but I knew my mom was sleeping inside. Back when we played hide and seek, Mom would lie under the blanket, and I could always recognize her instantly. She would say, "Mommy is hidden now. Luna, come find me." I would uncover my eyes and run into the room, searching and searching, until I finally found her under the blanket. She would scoop me into her arms. We would hide together under the blanket, whispering secrets. This time, I waited for Mom to scoop me into her arms again, but when she passed by me, she was still asleep. She didn't hold me. The auntie covered my eyes and choked out, "Luna, be good. Don't look." I told her, "Auntie, I can cover them myself. When I count to 10, I'll open them." She said, "All right. Then count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. I counted carefully, but when I opened my eyes again, the sheet and Mom were gone. Only the cart that had been there was now rolling away. Suddenly I realized that Mom was inside that cart. That once it left, I would never see her again. I struggled desperately to break free from the auntie's arms and chased after the cart, crying and begging them not to take my mom away. But I was too small, too weak. The auntie carried me back. I could only watch as Mom disappeared bit by bit, disappearing together with the white sheet, swallowed by my tears. Chapter 19. I cried and cried, until I fell asleep. When I woke, I cried again, calling for Mom. I was sent to Grandma's house. Grandma sat in her wheelchair and sighed. What a sin. Grandma never liked my mom. She said Mom was Dad's other river. Because she didn't like Mom, she didn't like me either. By the time I turned 3, I had only seen Grandma twice. Grandma told the nanny to bathe me, but the nanny refused, saying in her hometown it was taboo. A child who had stayed with the dead should first be taken to a temple. Grandma grew angry and, leaning on her cane, bathed me herself. As she washed me, she cried, saying she had lived a bitter life, but mine would be even more bitter than hers. I want Mommy. I cried along with her. Grandma called Dad, but he never answered, so Grandma had the driver take us back to our house. Sure enough, Dad was there, sitting on the bed, but Mom was gone from it. He had grown short stubble on his face. Mom used to dislike when he let it grow, saying it was prickly. Then Dad would lift her onto the sink and say, "You do it for me." Mom would smile softly, her slender fingers covering his chin with white foam, carefully shaving him clean. Dad would watch her the whole time, then kiss her. Later, Mom muttered to herself in the mirror that Dad wasn't really looking at her, he was looking at someone else. I thought to myself, but there are only 3 of us in this house. Dad wasn't looking at me. If not Mom, then who? Chapter 20. Grandma spoke to Dad, but he didn't respond. Grandma slapped him hard. When she was alive you didn't cherish her. Now that she's dead, who are you trying to impress? How long will you stay like this? Neglecting your company, abandoning your child? Then Grandma shoved me roughly into Dad's arms. The sin you created, you clean it up. Don't expect me, a woman without legs, to do it. I warned you back then. Mary is Mary, Selena is Selena. But you wouldn't listen, like you were bewitched. Now she's gone. The only thing left for you to do is to raise the child you had with her properly. After scolding him, Grandma left, leaving just Dad and me at home. That night, Auntie Lynn from next door brought us food. She cried the whole time. She said she had been away and had only seen on her surveillance that I had knocked on her door. She thought I just wanted to play, and didn't think much of it. I regret it so much. Why didn't I ask one more question? Auntie Lynn wept uncontrollably. Everyone had asked one question too few, taken one step too late. After she left, Dad suddenly seemed to remember something. He went to the study and turned on the computer. After a few keystrokes, Mom appeared on the screen. It was the surveillance cameras in our home. Mom had said they were installed when I was born. Dad didn't like having outsiders in the house. That was why after I was born, we didn't even have a nanny. The cameras were so he could watch me all the time, afraid something might happen to me. On the computer screen, it was night. Mom sat quietly on the living room sofa. The TV was playing a comedy show, the audience laughing loudly. But Mom, who loved to laugh, didn't smile at all. She picked up the phone several times, but always set it down again. Then I wandered out, rubbing my eyes, and curled up in her arms to sleep. Mom held me, gazing at me for a long, long time. Chapter 21. When Dad was watching the surveillance, I fell asleep beside him. When I woke up, he was still watching. On the computer, there was me and Mom lying on the bed. Mom was holding the photos from the studio, telling me stories. That was the last time Mom was alive. Mom, how did you and Dad meet? The me on the screen asked. Mom brushed her soft long hair behind her ear. We were inevitable fate. I didn't understand. Then Mom taught me to be brave, told me not to be afraid, said that even if she turned into rain or into wind, she would protect me forever. I fell asleep in her arms. I didn't know how much later, but suddenly Mom sat up, staring at the air, her face full of pleading. She was talking to someone, but at that moment the recording lost sound. All I could see was Mom collapsing in pain, grabbing her phone and dialing a number, only for the call to be quickly cut off. She typed a line of words, then collapsed again, unable to hold on. But she forced herself up once more, crawling toward the bed where I was, bit by bit, inch by inch, until finally she fell beside me, pulling the blanket over my little belly. At the very end, she even wanted to touch my face, but her strength failed her, and there was no more breath. And me, I knew nothing. I just slept sweetly beside her. Dad slapped the computer screen hard. but it was useless. I thought about it and told him, I know what Mom said. I heard it. Dad immediately asked me, what did Mom say? Mom said, it's not time yet. Why did you come? My daughter is only 3 years old. Let me make a call to arrange things for her. And she also said, I struggled to remember. I had been so sleepy back then. Dad cupped my face, staring into my eyes. Luna, think carefully. I tried and tried. And finally I remembered. Mom's last words were, I regret falling in love with Dominic. If I had known it would end like this, I would never have come here. Dad froze, listening. Then he pushed me away. He said angrily that I was lying, that I was just a child and couldn't remember so many words, that I was making it up. I got angry too and said I did remember. And that was exactly what Mom had said. Dad said nothing more. He picked up Mom's phone. He scrolled through it. And I don't know what he saw, but in the end, he cried. I had never seen Dad cry before, and I realized, when he cried, he was just as sorrowful as I was. Chapter 22. Later, Grandma told me that Mom's last phone call was to Dad, but it had been hung up. Her last message was also sent to Dad. It said, come home quickly. Mom must have been in critical condition then, so she only wrote those few words. But on Dad's phone, that message was gone. Someone had deleted it. The cause of Mom's death was finally confirmed, sudden cardiac arrest. On the day she was buried, the sky drizzled rain and the wind blew gently. I spoke to her gravestone, Mom, I can see you. The adults around me were startled, whispering among themselves. Dad crouched down and asked me, where's Mom? Show me. He believed me. He thought Mom was really there. I stretched out my hand to catch the raindrops. This is Mom. She told me she would turn into the breeze and the drizzle to stay with me. My mom, she never lied to me. Chapter 23. Dad still kept us living in the same house. Even though everyone around him urged him to move, some even said our home had become a haunted house. But Dad didn't care. He only lived in those surveillance recordings and the photos Mom had taken. Before, it was Mom who often looked at them. Now it was him. Before, it was Mom who sat in the living room all night. Now it was him. After breakfast, he would say, Selena, where's my tie? No one answered. He would stare blankly at the bedroom he had shared with Mom, then finally walk inside, find a tie himself, and take me to kindergarten. But before class had even gone on for long, Grandma sent the driver to fetch me, saying Dad had been in a serious car accident on the way to work. When we rushed to the hospital, the doctors were trying to save him. Grandma said to the doctors, just tell him, if he dies, his daughter will truly be a child without father or mother. And ask him, with a 3-year-old child and a crippled old woman, how will the two of us survive? In the end, Dad was brought back from the brink. I stood by his side, and he held me tightly in his arms, just like Mom used to. He said, don't be afraid. Daddy won't leave you. Grandma let out a sigh of relief, though I saw her secretly crying too. Later, Auntie Moo came, but Grandma wouldn't let her see Dad. So Auntie Moo came to our house instead, smiling at me. Luna, let me be your mom. But the nanny Grandma had hired to care for me shielded me behind her, shouting, who are you? What do you want? I'm telling you, abducting children is punishable by prison. Hearing the commotion, Auntie Lynn also came over to block her. Go away! What are you doing here harassing a child? Auntie Moo said, I only think she's pitiful, so I came to see her. Dominic and I will marry sooner or later. When that happens, I'll be the one to raise her. Auntie Lynn shoved her toward the door. Pitiful? I think you're shameless. Don't think we don't know how many times you came here to provoke Selena. She died because of you. Auntie Moo laughed, as if I had that kind of power. Auntie Lynn was furious and almost hit her, but in the end she held back. Instead, Auntie Lynn laughed too. Of course you don't have that power. Otherwise, Selena's been gone for almost a year now, and you still haven't managed to marry Domi. Back then, less than half a year after you left him, Selena had already gotten pregnant with Domi's child. Compared to that, Selena was the one with power. Auntie Moo froze for a moment, then lunged at Auntie Lynn, starting a fight. The nanny Grandma had hired also stepped in to help Auntie Lynn. Finally, security arrived and separated them. When Dad came back, he said coldly to Auntie Moo, Don't ever come again. I don't want to see you. Crying. Auntie Moo asked him, can't we go back to the way things were? Dad said, no. Back in the hospital. You hung up on Selena's call to me when I wasn't there. And you deleted her message. How can you still dream of anything else? You once saved me. But you also destroyed me. From now on, we're even. Auntie Moo left in tears. And I never saw her again. Chapter 24. When I was in the senior kindergarten class, Grandma suggested Dad take me to live in another villa. Grandma said that house had the best educational resources in the city. But Dad didn't want to move. He said I didn't need to compete so hard in studying, that it was enough for me to grow up healthy and happy. Grandma sighed. All right then. Health and happiness are more important than anything. Although Dad treated me very well and spent time with me every day, I still didn't like him. Every day. After the nanny Grandma had hired finished her work and left, only the two of us were home. I would play by myself in my room, while he sat in the study watching the surveillance footage from when Mom was still alive. He tried everything, but he could only recover the recordings from the 3 months before Mom's death, except for the arguments in the final days. Most of those 3 months were peaceful. In the mornings, Mom made breakfast and called Dad and me to get up. After breakfast, she stayed home tidying up, while Dad took me to kindergarten. When neither Dad nor I were home, Mom would start painting. She loved drawing comics, then uploading them online, where she attracted quite a few fans. I once read her comic using Dorian's family's computer. It told the story of a terminally ill girl who encountered true love. The girl had been tricked by classmates into going to a bar, where she was nearly harmed until a boy stepped in to save her. The girl fell in love with the boy at first sight. The boy did not reject her affection. They went through many trials together. In the end, the girl recovered from her illness, and the boy truly fell in love with her too. They had a daughter, and the three of them lived a plain yet happy life. Dorian said, so boring. My Ultraman is way better. But I cried when I read it, because I knew Mom was drawing herself, her imagined self. Mom had once told me she didn't belong to our world. She had fallen gravely ill in her own world, and was sent here. I once told this to my favorite teacher, but my teacher told Grandma, and Grandma called a psychologist. The psychologist said it was my subconscious creating a beautiful life for me, so I could accept Mom's death. Only Dad stayed silent. Later, he even sent the hard drive to a professional repair company. But no matter what, they couldn't recover the sound from Mom's final moments. That year, he invested most of his fortune into a foreign tech company. He was lucky. By the time I was in middle school, that company had grown into a unicorn in the industry, and Dad had become a major shareholder. That year, he was 34, still very young. He and Mom had met when they were 20. Back then, Grandpa had passed away. Grandma had been in a car accident and lay in the ICU between life and death, and Dad had dropped out of college to take over the family company. At the lowest point of his life, he met Mom, and then had me. Chapter 25. Dad didn't often appear in the public eye, so people spread all kinds of wild stories about him, saying he was a lizard man, or someone from the center of the earth. Grandma said Dad believed what I had told him, that Mom was in another world, and so he turned to technology to try to bring her back. Grandma also said, how foolish. Technology and the soul are at odds. If you want to find someone, you must study the metaphysical, not technology. She said he was chasing delusions, that he wasn't a god, that he was just a pitiful man who only knew regret after losing everything. But only I knew the truth. What he was really working on was a combination of cloning and artificial intelligence, things forbidden by international law. After Dad became a major shareholder, I was brought to live with him and attend school, staying in a large villa by the sea. In the villa's basement, I discovered a high-tech room. Inside was a lifelike Mom. I touched her skin, it was as soft as my mother's, with the same fragrance. She even had a heartbeat. I secretly observed her several times. She would smile at Dad gently, just like Mom used to. She would shave his beard, tie his tie, and cook delicious meals. Dad often stared at her in a daze, so lost in thought that he didn't even notice when I slipped in. One time, when Dad wasn't home, I went to the basement. Mom, I whispered to her. She smiled at me. Hello, what's your name? Why are you crying? Even her voice was exactly the same as Mom's. Dad truly was remarkable. I said, Mom, I'm Luna. She reached out to wipe away my tears. Luna, I can sense you're very sad. What can I do to help you? I held her hand against my face. Mom, let's play hide and seek again. You go hide under the blanket, and I'll count to 10 and come find you, okay? Okay. She lay down on the floor and pulled a blanket over herself. I counted to 10, then walked toward her. But in the end, I didn't lift that blanket. Because her eyes told me the truth, she was nothing but an incredibly expensive piece of technology, without life. While in my real mother's eyes, there had always been the gentlest light. My mom was unique. She was never anyone's substitute, and no one could ever replace her. All the more because she had said she regretted meeting Dad. When I was 3, I hadn't understood why Mom had been sad for so long just because Dad said to me, you were nothing more than a physical need. But now I understood, because all her genuine love and devotion, in Dad's eyes, had been reduced to nothing but a convenient tool. Even though Dad later regretted saying such words, Mom was already gone. What use was regret? In the end, I lay down beside this imitation, hugged her, and whispered thank you. Thank you for letting me see Mom's appearance again, just as she had been in life. Then I shut down her program, and set fire to the basement. Chapter 26. Amid the roaring flames, I returned upstairs. A gentle wind blew across the surface of the lake, and a fine drizzle fell from the sky. I spread my arms wide, lifted my head, closed my eyes, and felt the tender rain and breeze. My mom, she never lied to me. No matter the ends of the earth, no matter a foreign land, she was always by my side.